Hey guys, it's Bread on Ted here, and today we're going to be going over my top 10 favorite ships. Now, some of you may know, Bread on Ted, I didn't think you liked ships. Well, I'm a huge fan of ships. I love ships. They're just super. They're just best. They're just the best. And now I'm gonna be showing you guys my favorite ships. Now these can be really any ships, ranging from this to this. They could be, just any ship, any ship. There is no discrimination of ships here. Just any ship. So, just to start this whole thing off, my number one ship, or not number one, but my top 10 ship, first off, is the USS Arizona. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would it be the USS Arizona? Well, first off, the USS Arizona is a very historical ship. Very historical ship. It's actually, when it was sunk, like, I think around 1941 when it got sunk. It was actually around 30? Hold on. Actually, no, it was around 40. About 30-something years old. I'm too lazy, but yeah, 30-something-year-old ship. Very cool ship, very historic ship. It was kamikazed, sunk. Very sad. I know, I miss it too. But that's just a cool ship to start us off with. Historical ship, a lot of people died, that's sad. But we're not here for the dead people, we're just here to look at some ships. So that was my number 10 ship. My number 9 ship is the HMS Endeavour. It was a British Royal Navy ship. And it was the, this was the ship that, see, this ship, I didn't know much about this ship. I think it was the ship that did something about, like, something about Australia and New Zealand. I don't know, but it's still a very interesting ship to learn about. It's a very slow ship, 7 to 8 knots, not very fast. But here you can read here. Let's go to the Wikipedia page. That's always full of fun information. Let me check out right here. Was it? Oh, guess it's sunk. Whatever. That was my number 9. Number 9 is HMS Endeavour. My number 8. Where's my number 8? It's around here somewhere. Yes, here it is. The Edmund Fitzgerald. Now, I know what you're thinking. What's this cruise container ship thingy doing here? How is that your number 8 ship? Some of these ships have lots of history behind them. This one, however, was one of the most famous shipwrecks of the Great Lakes. Great Lakes of the United States, Canada, But, yeah, here you can see that it sunk in Lake Superior in 1975. Very famous shipwreck. And it also lost all its cargo. It had a lot of important cargo that was worth a lot of money that people would like to bring back up to the surface. But yeah. Sadly, they can't do that because the ship sunk and all that 30 years underwater. It's gonna do something to your cargo. And yes, not too good. So for my number 7, I've decided to choose the CSS Virginia. This was one of the first attempts at a submarine, really, or an ironclad as they call it, but really, we all know that it's just kind of like a submarine, really. But yeah, it was a very prehistoric take on the new submarine that really kind of built an entire new naval warfare tactic, which is the submarine, pretty much. Half of this thing was underwater, so, I mean, really, you know. This thing also went to war with the USS Monitor, but they were just too strong, and, like, they just kept shooting cannonballs at each other, and they couldn't even, you know, penetrate each other's armor, so they just kind of left. They got bored, really. And, yeah, that's my number 7 ship. And this, since is my number 7, I decided for my number 6, I would choose something a little different. This is the USS Nautilus, or the first operational nuclear-powered submarine. Now, I know people will say, this isn't really a ship, this is a submarine. Well, see, as I said at the start, no ship discrimination. No ship discrimination here. But yeah, it's also a tour site, because it kind of got decommissioned. Or at least, yeah, it's got pretty... It doesn't really work anymore. Or, yeah, it works, but you just don't use it. They just don't use it. But, yeah. Anyway, first nuclear-powered submarine. And then for my number 5, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, 5. Number 5. Where is it? I decided to go kind of... Oh, yeah, here it is. I decided to go kind of normal on you guys, but, my number 5 is the Titanic. Extremely famous ship. It's kind of ironic that, it was considered the unsinkable ship, and then it sinks. Yeah, it sinks on its, first trip. At least I think one of its first trips. I'm pretty sure it was its first trip. But yeah, it hit an iceberg. The ship sunk. Sad story. Pretty bad. Now for my number 4, I've decided to go kind of, yeah, I decided to go kind of, old with you guys, but today my number 4 is the Mayflower. The Mayflower is the ship that brought the Pilgrims to the New World in the 1620s. This is basically one of the first immigration ships ever. This was the ship that really created a country. Didn't really create a country, but, I mean, it established something. You know, 100 years later, it would create something. 400 years later, it would create an empire. But, I mean, yeah, pretty famous ship. It sailed the ocean from Britain into the New World, as it was. It was a very small ship, built for cargo and not for really passenger. And yeah, they just kind of left because well, yeah. And for my number 4 spot, let's see if I can find it real quick. Here it is. Number 4, where is it? I cannot... Here it is. For my number 4, I decided to choose the HMS Dreadnought. This was a world-famous, I think, pretty famous World War, or, well, it wasn't really a famous World War, but it includes a lot of history with it. As I said at the start, no ship discrimination, but, the HMS Dreadnought. These ships really kind of revolutionized battleship as we know it. But, I mean, these things were, yeah, dreadnoughts, big old boats. But this was World War I ship, and they kind of just used it off of pretty minuscule things. Usually it was used at the Suez Canal, around those kind of areas where Britain was fighting in the Middle East against the Ottomans or whatever. But yeah, here's the Dreadnought. Popular World War I ship. And for my number, what was it? I think that was my number 4, because my number 5 was a Titanic. My number 4 was Mayflower. This was my number 3. I think Dreadnought was my number 3, because Mayflower was my number 4. Titanic was my number 5. Alright, so this is my number 3. So for my number 2, I'm sorry if I got anything wrong with you guys. I'm gonna mix something up. But my number 2 would be the German battleship Bismarck, sorry. But, this thing was the top line engineering battleship of its time. This thing was crazy. This thing almost survived hundreds, if not thousands, of shells just shot at it constantly. But this thing finally was shot down. Very interesting ship. This thing was it was trying to be like hunted down. It was trying to be like, I mean, first thing, the main problem was trying to find it. The next thing, very interesting. Here's a video you can look at. I watched this video. Watch this video. It's a very, very interesting video on trying to find the Bismarck. Very, very cool, informative video. But now I know what you're thinking. What's your number one ship? What ship could be more famous than the German warship itself? Well, I'll tell you. My number one ship is the one, the only, the HMS Hood. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why is the HMS Hood your favorite ship? Why is this the ship of all ships? Why is this the best ship? Well, I'll tell you why. This thing was one of, if not the most, well, it wasn't the most famous, but it was one of the most impressive at its time. This thing did multiple world tours. It was, at the time, one of the most largest and most powerful warship for 20 years. It had prestige. This thing was like grand. This thing was everything. It had the mighty hood. It was just, everything about it was royal. It was just great ship. It had some of the best guns of its time being 1924. But yeah, this was a very good ship. This was a ship you could lean on. This was the ship that would give moral support to everybody. But sadly, this ship. Let me see this. When this this ship was sadly sunken by the Bismarck, and they lost British morale. This thing was sunk by the Bismarck. As I said, that was my number 2 because I liked the hood. It was a very grand ship. If you saw the ship, you were like, "Oh, that's the hood. We're good. We're good with the hood." But as you can see, here's where it rests right now. Here's where the hood sleeps forever. Anyway, guys, that was my top 5 favorite ships. Yeah. If you guys liked this video, actually, before I end it, I did have a few honorable mentions, so I would get those off first, actually. I was supposed to give them between 2 and 1, but I'll give them now. So for my number, I had a few honorable mentions. One of them was the Yamato, this Japanese battleship thingy. This was a big ship. This thing probably could have sunk the Bismarck if it really tried. But like this was huge. This was at the time when Japan was, already losing World War II. So at the time, they didn't stand no chance. But they felt like if they were gonna go out, they were gonna go out with a bang. And yeah, they got this big old ship with torpedo bombers, big old guns. This thing was huge. It was expensive. It weighed a lot, and it was powerful. But then for my next honorable mention, where is it? It's around here somewhere. See, these things are always hard to find. Let's go back here a little bit. Here, where was it? Where was it? There it is. My other one was the Australia 2, which was just a normal sailboat. But it won a very famous World Cup, the Australia 2. And what's cool about these little sailboat things is that, like, when people do races on them, they pretty much you gotta sleep in these tiny little boats all the way to the ocean. That'd be scary, alright? That's just me, but that's scary, man, alright? So, yeah. And finally, my last one we're gonna do this off with a famous one, the Santa Maria. This was the one that was driven by Christopher Columbus in his endeavor for the New World. But he kind of missed the New World. He didn't really hit the New World. He kind of hit like lower, like Cuba and some of those other islands. He didn't really hit America as a lot of people think, but he hit kind of Cuba and those lower islands like the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. He hit around those areas. But yeah. Let's go look at the Wikipedia page real quick. Can we find locations? Nope. Either way, cool ship. Cool ship. They got an anchor right there. But, yeah. Anyway, that was my, those are my top 10 ships. If you liked this list, this was my first time doing a top 10 list, really, so, give a like, give a subscribe, give anything. Yep. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. First time doing a video like this. And, yeah. See you later. Make sure to recommend this video to people who like ships. Anyway, bye.